Hey there. So that's a vintage Tinker on the table, and I know I've featured a couple of those before, but this one has a couple of interesting features that I thought I'd share with you. And so, the Tinkers come in two sizes: 84 millimeters, about 3¼ inches closed, which this one is, and a larger size, 91 millimeters, about 3½ inches closed, same size as, like Spartan. This is 84 millimeter, and it dates from the mid-70s. And the way I date it mainly is that it does have the clip point small blade, which Victorinox used up until around 1973. But one nice thing about this knife is that usually when you get these vintage knives with a clip point blade, you won't get scale tools. Not always, but most of the time the earlier ones didn't come with the toothpick and tweezers. This has toothpick and tweezers, so that's kind of nice to get both. And being an older model, the tweezers do have a metal tip. So that's an aluminum tip tweezer. And those are actually probably rarer than the knives, because what happens is, the knife will survive, but the tweezers get lost along the way and replaced with the more modern plastic tip ones. So that's actually a pretty hard vintage accessory to find, kind of like a single leaf scissor spring or something like that. And did you know that Victorinox started putting tweezers and toothpicks on their officers' knives all the way back in 1902, back when they had the fiber scales? A lot of people think that that innovation came later, but it actually started all the way back in 1902. That's when they were first introduced. The tweezers were nickel silver, and the toothpicks were ivory, because they didn't have plastic back then, or weren't using it. And so I think that would be really cool to find an old ivory toothpick, but I bet they're super rare. So the main blade on this one, it's going to read Victorinox Switzerland Stainless Rost Fry on this side. And then the tank is just blank over here. There's no Victoria and a crossbow. So it came a little after they stopped doing that. Now, this knife has been refurbished by me, so I have cleaned it, sanded and polished the steel, sharpened the blades, and polished up the scales as well. And then there's nothing really too different about the opening layer. Here's your downsized kind of can opener, small screwdriver. One thing about this knife is that the tools, they all snap open and firmly in place, but they have a soft close. See that? Kind of a soft close on the tools. But the other thing I think that makes this interesting, the back tools, you've got your sharpened reamer with no sewing eye because of the age. But you have a flat-sided or square Phillips driver. That's before they started making them round. This one does not have the file on the back, so it's a little younger than that feature. But what it does have, see if I can get this in the camera. There we go. It has the split end, which served as a can key. Now, I remember cans that needed a key. You may not. I'll put a picture here in a second. I'll interject a picture so you can see what I'm talking about. But old tins of like Spam or potted meat used to often come with a metal band around one end, and you would get the start of it and put it in a key. The key was usually attached to the can. They gave you the key, and you would twirl it like that and strip it off of the can, which would then separate the can. And so it was a little different than, say, a sardine can with the bigger key that took a whole lid off. This, I think, just basically would strip that metal band that would separate the can. I don't know of any cans that are still made like that. It would be fun to find one and try this tool on them. I don't think I'd want to eat whatever came inside of them. But let me put that picture in just right now. Yeah, so that's what that looked like. Pretty cool. And so I think this is just a cool little vintage Tinker. The metal tip tweezers, the clip point blade, and the square Phillips with the can key. Kind of different. And that will be for sale on my Etsy shop. Again, I've refurbished it, so it's pretty eye-appealing, I think. It's clean, it's shiny, it's sharp, functions perfectly. just a little soft close on the tools there. And while I'm speaking about my Etsy shop, you know, I still have one soldier for sale. I had 4, I've sold the other 3, but this one is a Wanger 1986. And it has the Waffen control stamp on the hollow rivet, and it's in really nice shape. So if you're looking, you know, for a soldier, maybe even particularly an 86, it's available on my Etsy shop. And I also still have some of these kicking Swiss Bianco G10 scale Swiss Army knives. I just think these are cool. And I'm selling these for a price that honestly is less than you could build one out for yourself. And if you don't believe me, go price one out. By the time you buy the Swiss Bianco G10 scales, pay the shipping, buy yourself a nice clean used Swiss Army knife, buy the epoxy and install them. You'll have spent more than you would spend buying just one from me, and I've done all the work. I've got a couple in the OD green. That one's a Tinker, and I've got a Super Tinker, and I've got 2 Spartans in this high-vis orange. And this one in particular is in really good shape. It's very near new.